Hi, I'm Sam, and welcome to my 2010 end of the year top 10 books that I've read this year with recommendations on all of the books. So I guess I'm just going to jump right into it by starting with my number 10 book, which is Girls of Tender Age by Tirone. And so this book is really good. It takes place in Connecticut. It actually happened. If you are a teenager reading this and you're from Connecticut, um, you will be freaked out probably. Actually, to anybody who reads this book, if you're from Connecticut, you might be a little bit freaked out. It's a really well-written book. Um, I got into it enough to where I'd be walking home from my bus stop and I'd be like looking over my shoulder going, please don't someone be following me, because I'm over dramatic like that. But it's a really, really well-written book. It's really, really good. I really suggest reading this. I'm not going to be able to say if they actually sell it in bookstores anymore because this is an older copy that somebody lent to me or gave to me, and so I really don't know if they sell it in bookstores, but I'm sure you can find it online or something. But it's a really, really good book. So my number 9 book is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and my friend who's obsessed with Neil Gaiman gave this to me for my birthday. And it took me a really long time to get into it because I started reading The Hunger Games when I was reading this, so I'd like put this down and go, oh, Hunger Games, and I'd be reading those instead of this. But I finally finished it like 2 weeks ago, and it was really good, and it's different from a lot of things I've read. Just the wording is a lot different, and it's a really interesting book, so I really recommend it. And it just, you don't expect a lot of the things that happen in it. Like, you're just like, oh, that's not going to happen. Oh, okay, that happened. But it's a really, really good book, so I recommend it. It's it takes place in London. I will put it there, and you're going to see parts of London, I guess, that you've never expected to see or hear of or anything, or that really don't exist, but it makes you think. But so, Neverwhere, Neil Gaiman, get it. I know they have this in stores. Number 8 is Ophelia by Lisa Klein, which is a book that I used during my theater class when I was doing one of Ophelia's monologues from Hamlet. And for me, like, I really needed to get into I really wanted to do a good job and get into character, so I read Hamlet, and I didn't feel like Ophelia got, like, enough, like, credit or anything, or she wasn't really talked about enough, so I got this book. Actually, someone gave it to me for my birthday, I think, and it doesn't really matter. Anyways, and I read this, and it just got me so into her head, and it gave me so many other ideas, and I love reading Shakespeare, but I was just like, okay, this is really good, and it really got me, like, into character, and I got a really good grade on it because I read this book, and it just puts other ideas into your head about the way things were written or about what Shakespeare actually really meant when he said something in Hamlet. So read it if you are a theater child, if you are a Shakespeare fan, read it. It's a good book, Ophelia by Lisa Klein. I know they have it in stores. Next is 13 Little Blue Envelopes by Maureen Johnson. I actually read this when I was in 8th grade. I'm in 11th grade now, so I read it a really long time ago. But my friend gave this to me for for Christmas. And so I've been rereading it, and I forgot how good it was, and it's so interesting, and it's about a girl who her aunt runs away, and she leaves the main character, Jenny, a set of 13 envelopes that she's supposed to open one by one at each location she goes to, starting in New York and going all across, like, Europe and stuff, and it's really interesting and really good, and there are parts where you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened, and it's really good, so I recommend reading it. So, 13 Little Blue Envelopes by Maureen Johnson, and they have different editions. I don't know which copy this is. This is the only one I've been able to find, but online there were some other ones. Anyways, instead of me babbling on about editions of books, I'm going to keep going. So, let's see, what number book is this? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So, 6, I guess. Looking for Alaska by John Green. I love John Green. His books are so good. And as much as I love them, and as much as I love Paper Towns too, there's a reason that um, Looking for Alaska is where it is in the list and not like right next to Paper Towns, and it's because I just found it was too much like Paper Towns, like it's almost the darker side of it. And but I mean, I love Looking for Alaska, and I love Alaska as in the character, not the state. No interest in Alaska, the state. Anyways, and I just found that there were too many parallels. It's a really, really well written book, but I just thought it was too much like Paper Towns. But I guess that's because I read it first. I might think differently if I read Looking for Alaska first. But so yep, Looking for Alaska by John Green. Read it, buy it, do something with it. Anyways, so let's keep this list going. Let's see. Yes, I have to count because I'm losing track in my little head. Anyways, 5 is Willow by Julia Hoban. This was a really interesting book. I originally thought it ran really slow reading-wise. Like, I just thought it was, like, really wordy and stuff. But then I really got into it, and I would not put it down. I'd be sitting in one of my math classes, and I would just be reading this. My friend actually had to knock it out of my hand one time, so I would focus on notes or something. And it's about a girl who cuts herself, so yeah, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, it's not a good book for me. But it's actually a really interesting book, and I really, really recommend it. And so, yeah. It's a really good book, and it like gets you inside the head almost of someone who cuts themselves, and I really recommend reading it, even if you, like, if you know someone, or even if you do it, if you cut yourself. I mean, I guess, because you can relate more. But it's a really, really good book, and even though it's a really depressing topic, it has a really, really happy ending, so I really recommend this book. Okay, so number 4 is Paper Towns by John Green. I actually really like this a lot more than Looking for Alaska. I thought the characters were more likable. I thought the story was more, like, happy, I guess. Mostly because people aren't dying, except for the beginning. But, and I really like how you can definitely, like, get into, like, oh, yeah, I totally agree with Quentin about Margot, and how you end up liking the theory of Margot, not Margot, which is interesting, I guess. But, yep, so recommend it. John Green, Paper Towns. It's an awesome book, and he's an awesome, it's an awesome book. And actually, I'd go check out his blog under Blog Brothers, him and Hank, because they are really funny, and, they are helpful in history classes. Anyways, so getting down to the last 3, which is the Hunger Games series, but I'm going through each book individually that each house bought. Not in order, actually. But, yeah, this is the order I think they are in, with one of them being the top one. Out of actually all the 10, or out of 10 out of like 102 books I've read this year and everything. So, the number 3 book is Catching Fire, which I liked, but I didn't like as much as Hunger Games or Mockingjay. But as like the sequel book, it was really, really good, and I really enjoyed it, and I did cry, and I smiled, and I was really, like, I think I read this in a day, I read it in less than a day, and I made my mom, like, I got home from school, because I finished it in school, and I was just like, Mom, order me Mockingjay, now, and so obviously, yeah, I got obsessed with the series, and if anyone's into fan fiction, I am working on one, so if you find my account, read. Anyways, but yeah, Catching Fire was really good. Didn't like it as much as the other 2, but it's still really good, which is why it's my number 3 book. I recommend this series with no waivers or anything. It's just such a good book. It's a good series. It's so much better than anything else I've read in a really long time. Anyways, so book 2 is Hunger Games. It's so good. You need to read it. I'm not even really gonna go into it. We'll have a quick message about Hunger Games at the end of this video. So yeah, Hunger Games, first book in the series. Read it. Read it. Anyways, I really have to connect with this book just a little bit more, just because Suzanne Collins is from Connecticut and I'm from Connecticut, so I just connect. I like when I can find connections between myself and authors. Anyways, and then my number 1 book is Mockingjay, because I laughed, I cried some more, and then it ended. And I absolutely loved it, and the ending was beautiful and so well done, and I was so happy with it. But yeah, so And I'm just going to say this because it was such a good book. Um, it's a really, really well-written series, and I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but it is the anti-Twilight. It has the same character setup where there is the main girl who has two guys who are in love with her, which would be Peeta and Gale, and it's sort of the same thing in Twilight where you have Edward and Jacob. I was a Twilight girl when I was in 8th grade. So yes, I do know. I'm not just speaking out of like, oh, it's such a stupid book. I have actually read them. Haven't seen the movies, have read the books. Anyways, but it's Hunger Games is the anti-Twilight, and it's just much better written. And it's nice that if you're like me and you're like, oh yeah, I really like reading books, and I like when the characters are like relatable. Katniss has her relatable points and everything, and she's more of a, I guess, literary role model than Bella, just because she's not weak and she doesn't really rely on anybody else but herself, which is a really nice change of pace considering a lot of girls in books are like, oh, I need someone to come rescue me, and Katniss is just totally like, no, I'm gonna take care of it, it's my problem, it's my thing to do. So that's, I guess, where you can go against that. I'm probably going to end up doing a video about Hunger Games versus Twilight or something. I don't know. Anyways, so have a nice end of 2010 and enjoy your 2011. I will see you later. Bye!